Soccer has taken over Philly, and when the World Cup rolls out, the party doesn't stop because we have professional soccer right here. The Philadelphia Union returned to play to host rivals Red Bull New York on July 22nd. If you've never seen a match, now's your chance with the first match on us. If you have seen a game, enter today to win VIP tickets to watch Inter Miami take on the Philadelphia Union when Lionel Messi comes to town on August 18th. Register for both at philaunion.co/citycast. It's the Tuesday News Roundup, and we're talking about how the World Cup, it's over. What was the economic impact on the city? The legal battle continues over how we share our roads. And what do you want Market East to feel like? It's Tuesday, July 21st. I'm Trenae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. What is a new business that opened up in your neighborhood that you're excited about? And we're going to start with you, Eric.
With me? Oh, well, first of all, I live in the Nicetown, Tioga, sort of hunting park part of the city. And have to say, I grew up here. I moved back a few years ago, and there were actually businesses closing down, which actually hurt my feelings. Mm-hmm. But there is one that just opened up. And I believe it's on Hunting Park Avenue, and it's a Texas hot chicken restaurant. So hot chicken is like...
Texas hot chicken?
Texas, like not Texas as the state, but Tex. It's his hot chicken, whoever Tex is.
Oh, whoever Tex is. Okay, Texas.
Yeah, whoever Tex is.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I'm actually anxious to go over there and try it because so far I've only had maybe 2 different hot chicken places, and this is bad for my diet because it's in walking distance, but it's the newest place that's open. So
I love that. That is Eric Marsh, the director of the Philadelphia Center for Gun Violence Reporting, giving us a great recommendation for some hot chicken. What about you, Abby? You're our senior producer, and I feel like you're such a foodie. So I feel like I can trust this recommendation. Even though I don't know what it is yet, I feel like I can trust it.
I was going to talk about a hot chicken place, too, that just opened in Brewerytown. Hot chicken renaissance, clearly, here in Philly. But what I love about it is, one, it's good. It's called Fire Fried Hot Chicken. It's on, Girard and 29th. It's halal friendly, but honestly, it's the deals. It is the deals there. It is hard sometimes to find a solid, good food, but not too expensive situation. I feel like there's a couple bars in my area, their happy hour is a $20 burger, and that just isn't really a deal to me.
That's
So wait, what are the deals that you can get at this new chicken spot in Brewerytown?
Yeah, this spot, you can get 2 fried chicken sliders with coleslaw and fries, which me and my partner will split for $13.99. That's a great deal.
Bad. That's
yeah.
bad.
Now, what size is the coleslaw, though?
It's small. It's like one of the little, the little smaller
it's like the
white
little
cup. Yeah,
little ramekin cup.
Not the tiniest. It's like the medium. But hey, honestly, it's enough to sustain me and another person through the night. I'm down for it.
It sounds like you have to drink a big glass of water before to fill in the gaps. That's what it sounds like to me.
I mean, they have other deals. They also have pies and cake, a bunch of different desserts. But it's just a good spot, and it's right. There's a lot of buses that come down 29th. So if you want to hop off, and you can go right to the hot chicken spot.
All right. Well, y'all put us on to some new chicken spots. I'm going to put y'all on to a new coffee shop. This is a spot called Sister Robert's Coffee. It's a new Black-owned coffee shop. It's open Thursday to Sunday right now. I think they're still building up their daily schedule. But this is not only a coffee shop, you could get books and food, and they host live music. That's what sold me.
Cool.
So yes, a great spot to support local musicians and things like that. So check it out.
Awesome.
Coffee and music, yes.
Yes, that's awesome.
All right, let's get into some other conversations that are happening in the city. So this summer, it's been really busy with major events like America 250, the MLB All-Star Weekend, and of course, FIFA World Cup. Some new numbers came out about the economic impact because I feel like a lot of us Philadelphians have been asking just that. How many people have showed up? What's been the economic impact? And essentially, was all of the prep and the work that went into these major events, was it all worth it?
Yeah, I think that's the big question. And I mean, we're going to see more numbers drop like as the days go on. I mean, literally FIFA Fan Fest ended this Sunday, so we're gonna see more come out. But as of right now, we know that over 500,000 people visited the Fan Fest alone, which is a huge number, and they all had to get there. They're probably staying in the area. They're taking Ubers. They're taking SEPTA. You're getting food, so that's great.
And it was a 39-day free festival.
Yes, exactly. So people had some extra cash to spend elsewhere, since it was free.
Right. And it came with like free concerts and like fan activations. So yes. I think that was important too, because other host cities of the World Cup, their fan fests weren't free.
Yeah. It just wasn't as robust as ours, it sounds like. We are one of the only cities that had something happening every single day, even if there wasn't a game playing. So it's a big deal. And FIFA Philadelphia estimates that the monetary impact is around $770 million. So that is a big number. That's a considerable amount. But I think, some of the numbers that we're still waiting on are the businesses surrounding it.
Amtrak, maybe even.
Amtrak, hotels. Like we're gonna hear more about that. And one big winner here, I feel like, is SEPTA. And we'll get exact numbers soon. But I was reading in a Philly Voice article that the slowest day for the agency during this summer was July 14th, which was the day of the first match at the Link. And they had a 19% increase in fares in comparison to like a typical Sunday in the spring. And the busiest day was June 25th. They had a 33% increase. So, I mean, that's great. I'm really glad people were utilizing SEPTA, during this time.
Well, the hotels did pretty well. Visit Philly came out with those numbers like a week or so ago, saying that there was about 90% occupancy rate. We talked about that last week on the show. I'm curious to know also about like the 4 a.m. last calls, like the bars and restaurants and places that stayed open until 4 a.m.
Yeah, I think what I've heard, and I've seen a few reports on business owners in Center City and downtowns, like surrounding areas, saying they didn't really see a huge impact as a result of FIFA, and they've actually saw more business as a result of the MLB, the All-Star game being here. And a few other events, like the big sporting events that normally happen, or like the special events related to NFL and MLB in Philadelphia as opposed to FIFA. But I can tell you one thing, like the visitors, the people who have came here to experience FIFA, I just love the responses and reactions that they're seeing. So a lot of people downtown, Center City was absolutely crowded. The 500,000 visitors I could believe, I think I ran into every single one of them on Kelly Drive. And I was also one of the few idiots, because I'm of a certain age, that tried to drive downtown. So, I was one of the...
Where did you park?
That's a secret between me and my parking spot.
You're not going to tell us.
I'm not. No, you already know. Parking wars is a real thing in Philadelphia. But just to be out with all of the visitors was amazing. So yeah, in terms of the economic impact, I think we're going to have to wait a little while just to see exactly what that is. But the social impact was incredible.
Yeah.
Don't know if you got a chance to see any of the visitors from out of the town and out of country and their YouTube reviews of Philadelphia. There have been so many people that have just been loving on Philadelphia. I saw one channel where there were two Black British young guys kind of wandering around, and they went to Reading Terminal and they went all over the place, and it just had glowing reviews. So as a native Philadelphian, I just want to say I love the response that folks from other countries have had with our city. Yay, Philly. We did a great job.
I also want to point out too that also during like all of these major events, I don't want folks to forget that Joe Frazier's statue also moves into the place where Rocky used to stand. And there is a Rocky statue on the top of the art museum steps. So that to me also kind of stood out too, because so many people make a trip to see the Rocky statue, and that, Philly's been known for Rocky and cheesesteaks, and maybe people know hoagies, but more people visit that Rocky statue than they do the Liberty Bell. And so, like you mentioned, it's good to see how our tourists and our guests have taken in Philly, and for them to see the other stories and to see other neighborhoods like Brewerytown, right? To see and experience Reading Terminal and other foods and things like that. I think that's also important. And I feel like my theory is that our identity as a city is going to, if not change because of these events. And I think it's going to change for the good.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of Brewerytown, I live in the area, and Brewerytown businesses didn't see as much money in this whole situation, and they blame really the residential permit
parking permit.
Yeah, the parking permit, because I think from what I could tell too, like Fairmount was poppin'. There, you couldn't get a seat.
Fairmount Avenue, you mean?
Yeah, Fairmount Avenue was poppin'. You could not get a seat at restaurants kind of on that strip. If you continue walking straight down, you'd hit the FIFA Fan Fest. But if you go up to Brewerytown, like on Girard, because people couldn't park around there and there's so many blockages and there was so much traffic because of Fan Fest, the businesses were like, yeah, we really didn't get to benefit as much financially. But I will say, as a resident, I was appreciative of the permit. And also the city has been doing increased street sweeping, and things have really been kept clean, even though there's a lot more people walking around. So I do appreciate that. So, give and take here, at least for the Brewerytown neighborhood.
Yeah, but I think that goes back to what I was saying about the parking wars earlier. Like, Philadelphia is a city that's over 250 years old, and very rarely do you get a chance to update parking. Parking is just going to be an ongoing issue. So I don't know if it's fair for the businesses to necessarily blame that, because when there's not an event, then residents like me, complain about not having a parking spot. So how do you balance that out? I don't think there's a way to really do that. And to your point about street cleanings, yes, there's been, I think Mayor Parker, part of her cleaner, greener, safer initiative, there's been a lot more street cleanings happening in the last year than I've seen in a very, very long time. And I think that was another thing that I heard from a lot of FIFA visitors. People really consistently talked about how clean Philadelphia was, which for those of us natives, we're looking around like,
wait, what now?
where are you looking? But we're not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth. So, but yeah, I think it's been an amazing experience. So yeah, in terms of the economic impact, I think it's going to take a little time, but it's definitely started the ball rolling in some kind of way. Now it's just up to us and to city government to figure out how to keep it moving.
All right, we've got more news after the break. Sunday marked the 2-year anniversary of the death of Barbara Fritz, the CHOP doctor who was killed while riding her bike on 18th and Spruce Streets by a drunk driver. And since her death, it sparked a lot of calls for protected bike lanes and just overall more traffic safety measures for cyclists who were riding around Pine and Spruce Streets downtown. So months after her death in 2024, Mayor Sherrell Parker signed a law saying no vehicles could stop in bike lanes. But the other issue here is that the city tried to also create loading zones on Pine and Spruce Streets, which is a part of bike safety upgrades that the city wanted to make in the area. But there's been a legal battle over all of this.
Yeah, so this particular legal battle is really like specifically about the loading zones, and like the city was good to go on them. They were ready to build them, and neighbors in this area decided like, no, we can't do that. And what the loading zones would fix is basically like these streets are so small in this area that cars like, Amazon trucks and Door Dashers were stopping in bike lanes to just drop off food and packages and stuff, and then bikers would then have to go into traffic into the street to go around them. So the loading zones were meant to be a fix for that, and neighbors are like, but then where the heck am I gonna park? Maybe you're on the older side and you have a hard time getting the groceries in. Like, I mean, it's hard to find parking anywhere in Philly, especially on small old streets. So I think that is where this lawsuit came from. So Friends of Pine and Spruce, which is a group of residents with homes in the area, they are suing the city, and the group says that the city has no legal authority to remove parking spaces to create these neighborhood loading zones. And then earlier this month, a judge ruled that the city can't build these zones, which upheld the injunction brought by the Friends of Pine and Spruce case, which has stopped the city from building these zones. But the case isn't over. The judge's decision does not address this like bigger question of whether the city has the right to improve bike lane protections. The Friends of Pine and Spruce did add to the suit. They believe that the Sunshine Law was violated. This law requires that lawmakers conduct business in the open, and they also believe that council violated the separation of powers in the city charter by giving lawmaking to the executive branch. So I mean, they've added to the case. I mean, we just got the news about the injunction, but I mean, the case is pending. So, we'll see how it goes and what could change in the meantime.
Well, and also, I think, one, we're hearing a theme in today's show about parking. This is the third time we've mentioned parking in Philadelphia. And yet, that doesn't change the actual cause of death for Barbara and other cyclists and other people who have been hit in the city. And I think there's something like before we go down that rabbit hole of talking about loading zones, we've really got to talk about just the inherent danger to cyclists in the city as well. The city has done a lot of changes over the last decade in terms of adding bike lanes to many major streets, particularly in Center City, Philadelphia. So anybody that drives up Walnut Street or Chestnut Street, you know that there are now bike lanes in a lot of those areas. But there's multiple issues that we're actually looking at, right? So for instance, in this case, Barbara was struck by a drunk driver as he was turning the corner, right? And so a loading zone wouldn't have changed that. And so we really need to figure out like what else can we do? The parking authority recently installed speed cameras on several of the streets. First, it was Roosevelt Boulevard, which was a major issue for decades. Now Broad Street. And I'm wondering if y'all think, is there some type of surveillance or camera system that might actually be part of the city's next move to kind of prevent cyclist deaths or pedestrian accidents from dangerous drivers?
Right. It's like similar to what you just said, right? So like this story has continued to highlight the tension between drivers and cyclists, and also the tension of the lack of parking. If I could create a perfect situation, I think that because the most challenging part is we've seen like better designed streets. So the street, like I'm thinking Walnut Street, for example, between 30th Street to about maybe 19th Street, where it's designed curb, sidewalk, bike lane, cars can park, and then there's 2 lanes for traffic.
Yeah.
And buses can fit in these lanes. That to me is like a perfectly designed, we all can use the shared space. I think a solution, like realistically, would having more either vacant lots or garages be more accessible to residents in a densely populated part of town, if that's possible. Now, in neighborhoods like South Philly or Manayunk, Roxborough, and even places in West Philly too, where basically you gotta park your car at 4:59, because by 5:15, when everyone comes home from work, you're not gonna find a parking spot. So maybe more physical structures to hold cars. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we're talking about multiple issues, right? And there, to your point, Trenae, because there's a section of Chestnut Street between Front Street and Fifth Street that actually has that set up like that, where there are bike lanes that are
Yes, yes.
actually almost integrated into the sidewalk. They look very similar, like a transition between the sidewalk and the bike lane and then the parking lane. Again, Philadelphia is a very old city with a lot of narrow streets, and so it's going to be hard to accommodate. One of the things I've seen in other cities is that they have actually designated specific streets only for cyclists and
Oh,
pedestrians, right? So you
interesting.
actually remove the car altogether from, let's say, a very narrow street like Sansom Street. Sansom Street in the heart of Center City, but it is a one lane, one direction street. Imagine if that street was cut off to the point where it was only used for cyclists, right? And so there are
hmm
solutions that we could come up. There's a lot of different cities around, not just the United States, but globally, who have dealt with this issue. I think the challenge again is the infrastructure in Philadelphia makes it really hard to make these adjustments for cyclists. And I just want to say it's not just cyclists. Like I know two individuals who have had their lives taken by reckless driving within the past
Mm-hmm.
year.
Mm.
Um, Roberta Fallon is a friend of mine, formerly of Art Blog. She is 87 years old. She was crossing the street, I believe, at 38th and Market, which is a huge area. It's really wide. But again, that was a situation that devastated our friends and family. And then also June Rodriguez, who used to be a popular DJ at Bob and Barber's on South Street, was also struck and killed. And so this isn't just about cyclists. I think there's another issue in terms of the recklessness of drivers in Philadelphia. And so I think there's another thing that we could do in terms of starting there. We make sure that drivers are aware of the safety issues of pedestrians and cyclists in the city.
Yeah.
For sure, for
Yeah.
sure. I would love to see more speed bumps
hmm
um
Mm.
on roads, just more physical safety measures, or brighter lit areas as
Intersections.
well at
Hmm.
night too.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think when Eric, you mentioned surveillance and things like that, I think what bike activist groups always suggest first is a protected bike lane is going to be the best thing to protect both pedestrians and bikers. And surveillance, if you're giving people tickets, you might be able to find people better who did this. My friend just last weekend was biking home at night and was hit by a car who left the scene, and they have no
Mm.
idea who did it, and she doesn't
Mm.
remember anything. So surveillance can help in the aftermath, it sounds like, but actually preventative measures seem to be the thing that will keep people safe. But yeah, then we get
Absolutely.
into the streets.
Right. Then it gets into who's going to enforce it
Yes,
and
yeah.
that sort of thing.
hmm I mean, for the particular case between the Friends of Pine and Spruce and the city, it's still pending, and the trial is set for sometime next year. So we'll see what comes of that particular case. But it's a citywide issue, and it's gonna be fought all over for a long time, it seems like.
All right, we've got more news after the break. So earlier in the show, we were talking about some new businesses in our neighborhoods, and you might see a new storefront, but it's not a real business. It's called the My Market East. And so it's a storefront where we can go and express our feelings on what we would like Market East to be in the future. And so this is a shop that has photos and mock-ups, and we can share our ideas of how to revive this side of town. Mayor Parker said that the city doesn't necessarily want a new vision because there's like dozens of plans already like out in the world. She's looking for action. And it seems like she wants to also kind of get how we want it to feel. This storefront is open now and will be open until July 31st. Or you can submit your ideas to marketeastrevival.com. So, Eric, what would you
Yeah.
like Market East to feel like?
Ooh, what do I like it to feel like? Being of a certain age and being a lifelong Philadelphian, I recall Market East going through a lot of stages. A lot of people don't notice, but I used to be a union carpenter here in the city. I worked in construction, and I saw Center City go from being vacant in the late 80s, early 90s to the revitalization and the hotels and the head house and the convention center. And so, being able to see it go into that phase of like thriving and flourishing was amazing for the city. And so I feel like I would love to see it get back to that sense. At one time, Market East really felt like a little bit of like Times Square for Philadelphia. There was one point, I don't know if you remember when the hotel started putting the huge digital banners, digital televisions
Yes, like those
up on the side of
LED lights. And it was like
Yes.
so bright down there. I was like, whoa, what is that?
That's a whole nother issue in terms of light pollution. But
Right.
it felt like it was lived in. It felt like a major metropolitan area. And honestly, not to point fingers, I think the whole debacle around what we like to call the gallery, but some folks like to call the fashion district. I think that started a little bit of it. The pandemic obviously didn't help. But another issue about that area was just that it wasn't necessarily user friendly. It wasn't something that everyone in Philadelphia could make use of. And I feel like if there's a way to figure out how to incorporate everyone in the city in terms of like different types of shops, different offerings in terms of how do people use the space. I've gotten a chance to go down there recently where a good friend of ours, Joss Duncan Ashe, was able to use one of the spaces for their space temporarily, which I thought was a brilliant idea. But how do you make that sort of thing permanent, right?
Right. How do you make it last? Yeah.
How do you make it last? At one time, I don't know how many people remember this, but there was conversation about a Disney development on Market East.
I remember that. I remember those conversations. Yep.
Yeah. And so because that didn't develop, you have these fits and starts in that area. And I'd really like to see the city do more of a comparison between not only to what Philadelphians want, but what have other cities done in similar areas, and what have we seen that's actually going to be supportive and productive in the area? So I don't necessarily have a specific vision. I just know what it could be, and I think we can look at other cities for that.
And to your point of just like how it could be productive, because even when we kind of recently got out of the conversation of should we have a stadium down there, and just how much tension that kind of brought out amongst all of us and different neighboring communities. I came from the era of the gallery and City Blue and pizza shops, and like you needed a token to hop on the L, okay? So I remember shopping and like those stores that have like gigantic like speakers and blasting like music. So that's the era I like, it was near and dear to me, right?
Sam Goody and Sounder Market and all of those.
Yeah. And so, but I also came from the era too, where having a place where tourists who are coming through, at the convention center, or you can go for a date night or celebrate your birthday or graduation celebrations. Those are all important to us. And so I think that we need more spaces like that, or more businesses like that.
Yeah.
I really currently like the seating area on 12th and Chestnut Street. So it's kind of like right off of the, busy Market Street. But it's such a nice like area to sit at. They have like little tables and things like that. I like that area on 12th and Chestnut Streets, and I would like to see more spaces like that. I would love to see Market East get blocked off, and let's have some more block parties and night markets. Like invite food trucks. I would love to see that. Just more activation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
but
ways that you could do it.
Yeah, but how permanent of an installation would that be if it was just food trucks, right? Like it's a great idea as a way to attract people, but how do you keep people? I love what
Mm.
you said about that seating area because I'm thinking about how do we create multi-use spaces? So again, the theme for this show is parking. The city of Philadelphia has a lot of municipal parking spots and parking areas around. Why not have a multi-use place, right? So imagine if you had a parking garage, but on top of it was a green space like Sierra Center where people could actually
Yeah.
go and hang out and have a beautiful experience. I'm thinking about the Kimmel Center, right? The Kimmel Center has these multiple layers. Like you walk in, it's a music venue, it's a theater venue, but you can also go upstairs to a restaurant and then there's a green space that's part of it. I think one of the challenges, and going back to not to beat up on the fashion district, but I think fashion district kind of came along at a time when a lot of Philadelphians were struggling financially, and there's this sense of almost in a kind of way it introduces a level of classism, right? Like who could
Mm.
afford the fashion district at the time that it was actually introduced, right? And so thinking about the way that citizens, just your average everyday citizen, uses a space. The reason why I'm going to keep going back and calling it the gallery was because it had a food court, right? It had a place where you can get music. It had a
It had a
place where
place
you
where you
could
can
just,
get photos taken, like those
yes.
glamour shots. No, you don't know about that? Okay.
I'm sure you use that one quite a bit, but anything that residents could use. So, Abby, what did you have to share on that this summer?
Yeah, I mean, something that I'm hearing you guys say a lot is like having spaces that require you to be in person. And I think we're seeing malls dying across the country, right? So I'm not surprised that they're like, we saw Macy's go. We've seen a lot of the bigger stores that are reliant on online retailing disappear because they don't need to pay the rent to be in person. So it's like, how do we make these big buildings, the Macy's building, into a place where maybe there can be many different people able to split rent on such a big space, and maybe they sell things but they don't have capacity to sell online. Even looking at like where the My Market East pop-up is near those like temporary pop-ups that were built for the 250. Those were all local businesses. And yeah, they don't have Macy's money, but a bunch of them could. And these are people that like if I know a small business in the area, I want to go see them in person because that's where I can get it. And same with restaurants, same with, photo booths, same with music. Like these in-person experiences are what we need to lean into. And I mean, I feel like this area, according to Billy Penn, is home to 300,000 jobs. 42% of the jobs in the city are in this area. So it's not like people aren't around. And also Center City is having one of the biggest residential growths in the city right now. So people are there. It's just putting things there that people want to do and can touch, and is sustainable for the businesses themselves. I think that's the hardest part, is that people have not been able to stay there and pay the rent. So how do we make it that more people can take on the rent burden? And then that would mean, if one goes under, the whole building doesn't turn out vacant because you have 50 other businesses in there. So that's my pitch. But I mean, it is interesting at the My Market East pop-up, they have actual city planners that are staffing it. So if you want to go talk to people who like do this for a living, you can go in there and chat with them. Maybe my idea is awful, but maybe it's not. No. You can ask.
No, it's actually it's a good idea. I think one of the things, again, I'm a fan of history. And so sometimes you have to look back and see what did people in other times and similar situations do. And I recall a few places in Philadelphia in the past that were what we called arcades, but not the gaming kind of arcade where you have one establishment, but you have multiple businesses in that single establishment, right? And so to your point about being able to afford the rent, you might be able to walk into an address at 9th and Market when you walk in the door, but inside that space, there are 3 or 4 or more businesses occupying different areas in the front, in the back, or depending on how that space is divided, so that it is a shared resource. And it's not just this one-stop shop where people go in for just one very specific thing, right? And so if you could think more creatively about that, and then also, again, how do we split up spaces so that people use them at different times of the day? It's great to have a coffee shop. Can't wait to go visit the new coffee shop that you guys mentioned earlier. But imagine if you had a space that had a coffee shop and a food court and like an outdoor dining space or a green space where people could actually visit. So I think if you think more creatively about these bigger spaces, and then also this also ties back into the economy of the city of Philadelphia. How inviting is the local economy to new businesses? How easy is it for business owners to start a business in these areas?
That's
right?
a good point. That's a good point.
Right? We can imagine the use of the space all we want, but if it's not easy for a business owner to get their licenses and have L&I come out, and right? It's going to that's a hurdle. So I don't want to put the cart before the horse and imagine a space and then folks can't fill it up.
Yeah. Such a good point.
Eric, but do you want Market East to feel like Times Square? Do you want there to still be these bright lights? Or should we turn down the lights?
No. Let's turn down the lights a little bit. We don't have to go with the max lumens on everything, but it becomes a war of attrition at that point where everybody's got an LED screen, and so you're competing for folks. No, I'm not saying that it has to be as gaudy and bodacious as a Times Square. What I'm saying it has to be lived in and vibrant, and there's ways to do that. Right? There's ways to do that with green spaces. There's ways to do that. Philadelphia is a capital of murals. For God's sake, we could
let's
have
put some more murals. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it could be a beautifully decorated, beautifully designed space that's inherently inviting and welcoming to residents and business owners.
All right. I do want to mention this because we love to give like hacks and little secrets. And since, Eric, you were kind of not telling me the secret spot where you park at, I want our listeners to know that they can park at the PPA parking auto park spot at the Fashion District. $10 for the evening parking after 5 p.m. and you have to leave by 3 a.m. Flat rate, $10. That's a deal.
Yeah, that's good.
Where is this at again?
This is the auto park at the Fashion District. It's located at 44 North 9th Street between Market and Arch Streets.
Okay. All right.
That's a great
I'm going
tip.
to put that in my little black book.
All right, Eric and Abby, thank you so much for joining me on this Tuesday News Roundup.
Thank you, Trenae. This is great. Abby, it was wonderful working with you.
Yeah, it was great chatting, you guys. Had such a good time.
Before you go, I have a favor to ask you. CityCast is doing our annual listener survey, and it would really help us out if you took it. We want to learn more about our audience so that we can serve the city better and the people in it. So head over to citycast.fm/survey. It's only going to take you 7 minutes. And once you're done with the survey, you'll be eligible to win a $250 Visa gift card and some CityCast Philly swag. That's citycast.fm/survey. And even if you took it last year, we would be grateful if you took it again since we can't use last year's data anymore. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. If you enjoyed this Tuesday News Roundup, share this with a friend. Also, rate the show, leave us a review, and make sure you hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. And don't forget, you can support the show and get some great perks by becoming a CityCast Philly neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. That's all for today. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.